Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu Rasulillah. What is SMUT? What is also known as word porn? And why is it important? And how was it brought to attention to me? One of the sisters messaged me trying to understand why so many women engage in SMUT and why is it not so much under the radar as it is, for example, when it comes to porn for men. So men are usually policed about pornography. There always been, men watching porn, and yes, that is correct. That reported around a good over 75% of men have engaged with porn. That's reported, which means it will be probably much higher. And about 40 or so percent increasing, by the way, women are engaging with visual porn. But one thing that's not being talked about is word porn and why. For example, about 85% of women are the ones who bought the famous book 50 Shades of Grey and not men. Why that mostly women are engaged in this kind of thing? About 60, maybe 70%, again, reported, and women usually tend to underreport, as opposed to men, only about 30% of men, who engage in smut or word porn or what is called audio erotic books or reading erotica and so on. Now, let us look at the actual video that was sent to me by the sister. And it is a post on Reddit, and we are going to see the video. And let's listen to it.
Can anyone explain to me why there are a good amount of Muslim women who are into smuts or like these like soft corn like books? It makes no sense. So for Muslim men who don't know what smut is like these like novels and like this book genre where the central theme is like graphic you know XE material. The reason why this came to mind is because I was scrolling through my FYP. There was a hijabi that's going to the Renaissance Festival here in the DMV, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I'm like scrolling past her page. I'm like, it's all like novels and like smut stuff. I'm like, bro, what? So in the back of a book, there's like a book summary, right? If you were to read what's going on in the book, or like when you buy a book, you can read the description of the book or like a book summary. If any man were to do any of that stuff IRL, he would get into so much trouble. I'm talking about like rape, non-consent, whatever, all sorts of like malicious activity, and for some reason there are like Muslim women who thoroughly enjoy it. It makes no sense.
Well, it makes no sense, the brother's saying. It makes a lot of sense, actually, when you understand the neuropsychology of females, that women are wired differently than men and that their sexuality is different than man's sexuality. I've recently completed a course on female sexuality 101 and explaining, for example, hormonal differences, approach differences, interpretation, internalization, visual versus emotions, and so on. Women are just so different. Now, of course, none of this is to justify that, but it's interesting, even the title, if you're looking at why isn't Muslim community talking about the smut problem amongst Muslimah? Why are Muslimas trying to cover it up? So the first question, they're not talking about it because the Muslim community in general will not address these issues, even though these issues are there. Now, there's a difference because they think it's a fitna to address them. But the rebuttal to that is that the fitna is all over. It's like saying like there's a fire around my house and it's burning, like forests are just catching up, BC fires. And I'm okay because I'm in my house, but the fire is going to catch your house 100%. Whether today or tomorrow, it's going to burn your house down. So again, we're trained to have this holier than thou syndrome in our communities. People don't want to address real problems. Not everyone. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of imams who do, but that's kind of the general trend. So that's why it's not being talked about. Also, because most men are not comfortable to chastise, and especially in the last, let's say, 10 years, to chastise women on anything or to shame women on anything, because women are going to push back really hard. And in general, societies are more permissive when it comes to female sexuality and things, or they try to pretend that, hey, it's not there. For example, when it comes to same-sex attraction, right? When it comes to women, it's like almost like, wow, so cool, right? But when it comes to men, it's like, whoa, right? So there's that double standard, of course, and it is different, no doubt. Now, why are Muslims trying to cover it up? That's again because women do have this double standard inside of them. What they feel and what they, internalize is different than what they promote. And it's kind of like I don't know if I should use the word deception, but it's kind of like makeup. Makeup is a deception. What you see at the front is not what is actually behind that mask, right? And it's not about makeup here or about porn or smut. It's about the female psychology. They're not going to let you know usually what's inside or what's behind. There's going to be another layer that's going to protect them. And usually is because women were more chastised and more shamed in the past decades and centuries and maybe even millenniums, right? So women developed this defense mechanism of covering themselves up and deceiving at the out front as opposed to what's really going on the inside. So that's why these two questions are important, and those are the answers for this. But let's listen.
The thing, most of the time with these novels, it doesn't show the picture of the guy typically, right? They have to just like imagine it in their mind. So like some of these Muslim women, they're having this like imagination of like this really steamy scene that's going on with some guy that they're picturing in their head. They have some brief description of him.
Yeah. So, yeah, guy or girl, by the way. And I've addressed this many times because it even seems that it's not even gender specific for women. It's more about the actual thing these days. So this brother is surprised because most likely, like most men actually, and I'm not trying to pick on him, that they don't understand female psychology. They don't understand women. Men project their own understandings of themselves onto women. So they're like, oh, I'm shocked, bro, that women will be thinking about this. While men, we look at these things, right? That's because, again, women do look at it or think about it differently. Their brains are wired different. Now, yes, women are and can look at pornography, and it's increasing. But a lot of it's due to them becoming more masculine and following more masculine sexual patterns. But in general, if you were to look at the female fitra, it will be more about thoughts, emotions, as opposed to visuals. And that is why women are reading smut or listening audiobooks as well. And that is, again, why most women have, if you look at the statistics on actual female book purchases, if we look just 50 Shades of Grey, okay? E.L. James. So it sold over 150 million copies worldwide, but the vast majorities were women. So a US surveys at that time, 2012, 2013, it was 80 to 85% of all sales were women. Now that is a huge difference, okay? I would say that probably the 15% of guys who bought it, they were just curious maybe, or gay. I mean, that's something that you have to understand because when gay men become gay or men are gay, they have, again, interestingly, feminine behavioral patterns. It's weird, but very interesting. But that's not what this video is about. Maybe we can go more in deep or in depth in another video on this. But the group of women that represented that statistics, 85%, let's say, it was 25 to 45 years old. That was the largest group. And there was a secondary spike amongst women, 50 plus, partly due to marketing it as like mommy porn. Okay. And yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So why so many women watch this type of, or sorry, listen or read this type of so on porn? Because it's romance, erotica, hybrid. It's safe. It's like, oh, it's not really porn, but it is porn. I'm not really seeing and looking at it, but I'm thinking of it. It's safer in my mind than actually doing it. Female arousal patterns and excitement is very different than men's. For example, the brother was talking about grape or rape. It is one of the greatest fantasies for women, and some psychologists have said that it's an adaptation that they've developed to sexualize it and eroticize it to be able to cope with it. But it doesn't explain why a lot of women who never experienced rape, and they probably won't, they still find it attractive or steaming. right? Because it's very taboo, and it gives us a lot of insight into female desire, which is that they want to be dominated and sometimes roughed up, but not all the time. And that's why it doesn't maintain a specific pattern. It's not that they're like, oh yeah, I just want this. I would no. Sometimes they want to be soft and that romantic, but then they want to be roughed up. So it depends, obviously, which makes sense. It depends on the hormone. As the Prophet ﷺ said, the women are like the bent rib. And a lot of times that bent rib hadith is interpreted only as like, just don't push them. But it's not. The bentness of something also shows an inconsistency. And it's very much in line with what we're saying about female hormones, for example, and their feelings and emotions. They're inconsistent. So it can be soft one day, harsh the other day, or rough the other day. Also the fantasy theme, right? But it's still a love story. So yes, they have that, but it's still love. So it's a safety for them in a sense. Against two. Well, you could argue society, but it's more about themselves and how they see themselves, right? So yeah, that's kind of how it is. Again, just to put the statistics in perspective, 4 out of 5 copies of that 50 Shades of Grey was purchased by women. Now, if we want to go and see, for example, a worldwide, this was in the US, but why I'm saying worldwide, because we want to understand, in a sense, is it just specific to USA or is it more about everyone else, right? Um, it's not, it's specific to women. So whether it's in the UK or Canada or anywhere else, again, the statistics are pretty much the same. Okay, the statistics are pretty much the same. Okay, so for example, in the UK would be the same statistics. Okay, if we look at Canada, the same statistics, and so on and so forth. Okay, so like United Kingdom was about supposedly 65%. Canada, again, 60 plus. Australia, same, and so on, right? So we see that pretty much the same numbers. USA usually leads statistics in general, but interestingly enough, we see a very consistent pattern, which shows what? Shows that it's not about culture necessarily, it's about the wiring, the biology of women. But let's finish what he says here.
Based on um, the book they're reading, and he's doing this action and that action, and this, that, and the third. How is that not different than corn? You're telling me there's no one that's spoken out against smut and like reading smut and all this like.
So I've spoken about these things, and yes, it is different than corn. It's different in the medium is different. The way it's portrayed different. While corn is direct, visual, rough, mostly for the male gaze, which women are adapting to now. Smut is mostly again for the female ears and brain. And I've said this in the female psychology masterclass as well as the intimacy masterclass that are available for you guys to purchase on glromaani.com. But women's desire starts in their mind. Okay. And it is different than porn. 100%, very, very much different. People are not talking about it again because women are able to slip from under the radar and get away with it because men and societies in general idealize women. For example, if someone would say that a woman has done something, even if you say that to the law, most of the times they would deny them. Like, no, that's not possible. If you say, for example, that a man has done something, people be like, yep, yeah, guys, of course, we know guys, right?
Weird stuff, but like, you know, 24/7, like us men, we're getting policed about corn, corn this, corn that, corn this, corn that.
Right. So it's not even just about because women are also watching porn. So there's mixed strategies, right? So women are using masculine sexual patterns and then feminine sexual patterns. So it's confusing. So men are being policed about porn, and again, women are watching porn, and it's increasing, but they're not. It's not being addressed. But then now women have also smut and word porn, and that's something that is very, very again popular, right? So they can kind of do both, right, and still get away with it.
As if, you know, reading smut doesn't influence the mind of a woman.
Of course,
I'm
it
not saying
does.
men should watch porn. I'm not justifying it. I
Hundred
think
percent
it's
not.
horrible. But at the same time, I think there should be some sort of, you know, awareness about this. Like, why
I'm
are
probably the one of
women
the few
being a
that talks
slut?
about
Like,
this.
why is this normalized? Why aren't people saying anything? Why is this just, you
It's
know,
the same reason why most people don't talk about female hijab or the influences online, and they're afraid because when women come down upon you and they cancel you and they get together, by the way, and they blast you, is very, very difficult for, and a lot of men don't want that headache, especially imams and community leaders, right? It's like if you guys, imagine like a lecture in Islam about porn, right? And guys watching it and misbehavior and sin amongst men, right? Every woman will be nodding her head, and guys themselves will be nodding their heads because we're very like direct about it. We're like, yep, that's how we are. May Allah forgive us, right? But for women, imagine if you were to make it about women. I can guarantee you that not only would that imam probably lose his job, but there'll be a huge line of women outside of the masjid to take him on the next right after the lecture, and condemnation and right, like how dare you talk like this about women. But the numbers don't lie. I mean, people can lie, but the numbers and the stats, and especially because we have access to these due to engagement online, and we can see what women are doing. The numbers cannot lie.
pretty common around, some unmarried Muslim women, and they're reading these books.
And married. It's not about unmarried, trust me. It's probably even more about married women who are unsatisfied sexually in their life with their husbands. That's their only escape that they find that it's, or they justify that, look, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to divorce, I'm not going to get out, but I'll just watch this or listen to this and it's good enough for me.
Like, I'm being honest in your reality check. If you're a Muslim woman and you're in your early to mid 20s or late 20s, there's no like athletic quarterback from high school. You can't travel back in time. Football player either. I don't know where these, like, some of these Muslim women get these fantasies in their head. It's kind of
It's just from shaitan, obviously. We cannot rule out that shaitan is there and working on Muslim women these days more than ever. And the fact that that's how their brains work and that's how their fantasies are. And a lot of men don't understand how women's brains work and they get shocked. And we idealize them. And it's very shocking because men find out these things sooner or later, whether through videos like this, whether it's to catching their wives. So, for example, with the 50 Shades of, many men caught their wives reading it and even doing something else by reading it. Only, not only that, and it caused a lot of divorce, a lot of problems, a lot of scandals in our Muslim community at that time. Most of you would be maybe young, and you would not remember early 2000s or 2010, around that time. But it was a big, big problem. So um, that's basically what it is. So women are just very different. Shaitan's working on them. That's how their brain works. It's caused a lot of problems. It's still causing problems, but women are very good at covering it, just like they're covering their blemishes, their skin blemishes with makeup and deceiving men. They're also very good to cover their sexuality, their desires, their erotic fantasies, and so on. While guys are more direct. They're kind of like, yeah, yeah, that's how we are. If anyone says guys are dogs and they're always this and that, men will be like, ooh, yeah, yeah, we are. But if anyone says women are this, they'll be like, oh my God, how dare you? Let's cancel him. How insulting. This is un-Islamic. This is this. Well, I agree that both have to be treated with respect and so on. It is a very important point, a valid point that this brother is bringing up. Anyway, for more understanding of female psychology and sexuality as well as men, you can always go, to my website. You can message me. You can see my videos. But I've been talking about this for years and years and years. But of course, it is very sensitive, and I've had to pay the price for it in terms of condemnations and canceling and all that. But in the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We have to do the work. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Let me know what you think in the comments. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.